This video is a very quick introduction to layouts in AdapTable. It can be a very complex subject, and there's a huge amount of extra features which I won't be able to talk about here. But essentially, a layout in AdapTable is a set of column information. So it's a set of visible columns with order, with sorting, with pinning, with grouping, etc., etc. And as users, you can create as many as you want, either at design time or at runtime, or indeed programmatically. So let's very quickly look at a couple of layouts. So in this example here, we've defined two layouts. One we've called a standard layout, which just has some columns, and then a grouped layout, which, as the name implies, has a different set of columns and also has some grouping. So that is really all there is to a layout. Obviously, you can do a lot more. If we go into it, you can see you can specify your columns, your row groups, your aggregations, any sorting, any filtering, etc. So let's look at a couple more layout examples. Let's actually go full screen this time. So here we've got an aggregation layout. Again, it's grouped, but this time we've also defined some aggregations. We can have a sorted layout. You can see this column and this column have been predefined with sorting. Here we've changed the names of some of the columns. So what was called framework is here called programming language. That's called project. Here we've got some custom widths. Again, you can provide the widths and you can define those up front in your layout. Here we've defined a couple of columns that are pinned, so you can see that the first two columns are pinned and the rest aren't. And here we've got the grouping layout similar to what we saw earlier, and then, as I say, there was an aggregation layout. And obviously, anytime you make a change to a layout, that gets saved, gets stored into your adaptable state. Another complex topic for another time, but essentially layouts are live, so as the user makes changes, they're live and they all get saved, so you can very quickly switch between different views. And finally, in this demo, we're also going to mention pivot layouts, because that's another useful type of layout, and as the name implies, that is where you can define pivoted data. So again, if we go full screen, we can see here this is what we've called a pivot columns layout, where we're pivoting on this column, which then creates one pivot column for all three values in license. And then we've also got some aggregations. Here we've just looking at the sum, so we've got a much more basic pivot layout. And then, as I say, you've got your standard layout. So anytime you want, you can switch between standard view and your pivot view. And of course, whenever you want, you can go into any cell in a pivot layout and you can say expand it so I can have a table to show me how that's made up. Let's find a better example of that. If we go to sum here, we'll see a better example. So if we want to see the 18 that make this up, we can say show me those, and there they are. So there we are, layouts in AdapTable, a lightning tour of a very complex subject. There's a lot more to it, but essentially they're ways that you, the developer or the end user, can define sets of column visibility and many other properties and switch between them as your requirements demand. As always, thank you for watching. If you'd like to know more about AdapTable, please get in touch. We'll be delighted to provide you with a one-to-one demo, or indeed a free, no obligation trial license, so you can try out AdapTable for yourself.